out if we have equations. So what's happening every single week here is you guys are going to get an assignment that it has review questions on it. Because like I said to you already, okay, so here we have interpreting the equation of sinusoidal functions. Are we looking? So yesterday we talked about graphs of sinusoidal functions. Today we're talking about equations. You got a phone out, put it away. All right. This gives you little cheats on how to get your amplitude period if there is a horizontal phase shift, median value, or midline. So amplitude, we talked about this yesterday, correct? We'll go talk about the period of graphs after this, but we're just going to hit up this first. So the amplitude is the absolute value of A. Grab a marker, Crystal. All right, so it's the absolute value of A, and your equation is always in this form. If you don't remember, there are two things that you get on your formula sheet for sinusoidal. You get that form of equation, okay? That form of equation, and we're going to pick letter C for sinusoidal, right? C is sinusoidal. C. It's the last one in the regressions, correct? And then if I need the period and I'm given the equation, look, it tells me how to find it. 2 pi over b. People are like, I don't know how to find it off the equation. I'm like, they're like, yeah, I know. I don't know how to find the period off the equation. And I'm like, they're like, I don't know where the b is. And I'm like, they're like, I got nothing. I'm like, I got nothing. So it literally shows you where the b is, and then it shows you where to put it into the equation. Couldn't be nicer, right? That question is often not answered on the test. It's a little scary. Okay, so amplitude is the absolute value of A. So whatever this value is, I take the absolute value of it, poof, I have the amplitude. It's the best thing ever. Way easier than off of a graph. Okay? So let's try it out. So I want you to type this into your y equals. Let's go. What mode do we need to be in? Radian. Let's do that. So we're in radian mode. It does do a little wave. And the wave is the same height, up, down, and the same width in between, right? It has to have that. This is not yours. This is from a different class. Okay. So we have 3 sine x plus 2. And we make sure, close your bracket, sorry. And the mode we need to be in is radians. Now this is the thing. Your negative 10, 10, negative 10, 10 window sometimes doesn't work for this. So is everyone paying attention to me? Go zoom. Now zoom 6 sets it back to that standard window, that negative 10, 10, negative 10, 10 going up by 1, correct? What unit is this? It's a trig unit, right? Sinusoidal's in trig, sinusoidal, cosine. So let's pick 7. Now it gives you somewhat of a graph that might work, correct? What's the problem? I can't see the very top. So up here, what is this on my window? Y max. So do I change everything or just my Y max? That's my Y max. Go to my Y max, I can make it be. Okay, seriously? 8 maybe? Boom, you can see it. Do you see how the maxes and mins are the same distance apart? The min to the min, max to the max. Because this is the sign, remember sinusoidal has to have the same distance between those to have the period be correct. Do you agree? All right. Now the amplitude of this graph, well, I'll come back to that in a second. The amplitude is what? I don't write amp because that is a standard of measurement for like electricity or something. What is amps for? Music? Volumes? Volumes. Yeah. So amplitude equals what in this case? 3, because we do the absolute value of 3. And how far is 3 from 0? 3. The absolute value is the distance from 0. So that's why if it's negative 3, absolute value is 3. If it's positive 3, absolute value is 3, because it's 3 from 0. Okay? Let's look at this graph. If the amplitude is 3, what should the distance from min to max be? Min to max. 6. Remember the amplitude's half the vertical distance. We agree? So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. good to me. We agree? Okay, so the amplitude is the absolute value of A. Yes? Okay, let's go to number 2. We're not going to put it into our calculator, that's fine. Put these in after for other ones. What's the amplitude of this one? Amplitude equals what? The absolute value of what? Of -6, which is 6. Do you think they'll give the option of -6 as being the amplitude? Can the amplitude ever be negative? It's always positive because it is a distance, right? So it can't be negative. Okay? What about 3? What is my amplitude? The absolute value of 0.5, which is 0.5. Okay, I want you to do 4, and that's it. What's the amplitude? Yeah. I just leave it. Yeah. But you can, if it's a terminating decimal, then you can use that as well.
But it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. Okay, so the amplitude's pretty easy. The amplitude is half the vertical distance, correct? So you're all going to answer me some questions here. If the amplitude is a half, what's the vertical distance from min to max? It's a half plus a half. 1. Okay. If the amplitude of this one is 0.5, what's its vertical distance from min to max? 1. Okay, this one. If the amplitude is 6, what's its vertical distance from min to max? 12. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's half that vertical distance. Okay, cool. Let's go back to this. Now we're going to talk about the median value midline. Okay? This one we're going to talk about next. Easiest thing to find ever. Because it is whatever the heck your D is. That's it. Can midlines be negative? Yes. Because midline is the line that cuts the graph in half horizontally, correct? So let's say I had a graph like this. That was my graph. This would be the line that cuts it in half, which would be like y equals -6 or something, correct? So your midline can be negative. It's that line that cuts the graph in half. It's wherever the heck that y value is. Amplitudes cannot, but midlines can. They're the horizontal line that cuts the graph in half. So they're just, the median value is just whatever d is. The midline is y equals d. Remember, we need to have that y equals. Do you think people forget the y equals all the time? Yes, they do. That's why I'm trying to drill it into your heads. Okay. So the midline, or the median value is 4, and the equation of the midline is 6. So that's what we're going to go to right now, okay? 4. Come on, Lepp. That is a 5, and that is a 6. Roman numerals. Get you, gotcha. Okay. Median, midline. Okay. So what is the median value of this equation? The median value is the D. What is the D on this one? 2. Okay. Everyone paying attention? So we can rewrite this equation as y equals 3 sine. Now remember, the equation is in this form. Y equals a sine b falls between the x and the word sine plus c plus d. Do you agree? So what's in front of my x here? Yeah, a 1. Some people say 0. If it was a 0, 0 times x would be gone. Correct? So it has to be a 1. So I have, if I wanted to, I could write it into this form. Correct? I could go 1x plus, if there's no c, what is it? 0, and then plus 2. So I can always write them in that format so that I have an a, a b, a c, and a d. If I still wanted to. Correct? See what I'm saying? So the median value is always that back value of 2. The midline is not 2. The midline is what? Y equals 2. And I'm going to bring that graph back up. Is this midline the line that cuts the graph in half? Is it here at 2? Does it look right? Same amount up, same amount down? Well, let's count. 1, 2, 3 up. 1, 2, 3 down. Yeah. So y equals 2 is the midline, right? We can visualize it. We can see it. You know what I'm saying? It's that line that cuts that graph in half. Same amount up, same amount down. Remember that midline, we can also count the amplitude up and the amplitude down. It should meet at the same spot. I already know the amplitude is 3. I found it already. So if I go 1, 2, 3, it's going to hit 2. If I go 1, 2, 3, it's going to hit 2, and I'm going to get my midline back. Okay? So let's go to the next one. Let's rewrite this so that I have it A, B, C, and D. So I have y equals negative 6 sine 2x minus 3. And then I always need something at the back as well. Plus what? 0. Your A and your B at minimum have to be 1. Because it can't be zeros, it would cancel the whole function out. Right? So your A and B at minimum, if there's nothing there, have to be 1. And your C and D, if there's nothing there, have to be zeros. Okay? So if you're missing the A and the B, they would be 1s and a 1. If you're missing the C and the D, they have to be 0 and 0. Okay? All right. So here we have our A, our B, our C, our D. All right. So 5, the median value, what would it be? Equals 0. Yep. And the midline, y equals 0. Let's test this one out. Let's type it into our calculator. So we have negative 6 sine 2x minus 3. And then I always go zoom, trig, which is 7. So I have enough of these going on. What I don't have is the max, and I don't have the min. So what do I need to change on my window? My y max and my y min. I'm going to go negative 10, positive 10. There I can see it. We agree? So let's check what we know. We know the amplitude is 6, so let's count. If the amplitude is 6, the distance should be 12. We agree? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, that's good. The midline is supposed to be 0. If I count the amplitude up and the amplitude down, it should meet at 0, right? So let's count it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Remember, if it's symmetrical about the x-axis, it'll always be y equals 0, right? If the same amounts above as below. You know what I'm saying? All right. I want you to do 3 and 4. Give me the median value and the midline. Go. Median value. Okay, guys, what's the median value? It equals negative 7. What's the midline? Y equals negative 7. Do you see the difference between the two? Yes. So, this one, the median value. What's the median value? 4. And what's the midline? Y equals 4. Okay, we have a few more things in here, right? Let's go back. Okay, horizontal phase shift. We're going to talk about that next. Horizontal phase shift. That just means has the graph moved, I just called it a graph. Has the graph moved horizontally? Easiest question ever. Why? Because if C equals 0, no horizontal phase shift. If it equals anything else, phase shift. This is the worst thing in 30-1 because they have to find it. You want to know the coolest thing? You don't have to. You just need to know if it moves or not. So they have to give that C value to you if they want you to find the equation from a graph. So if C equals 0, there's no horizontal phase shift. If C equals anything else, you say there's a phase shift. So the question I'm giving you for numerical, for Roman numeral 4, I'm struggling. is there a horizontal phase shift? Our answer is going to be yes or no. That's it. So let's look here. Does this one have a C value of anything other than 0? No, its C value is 0. Do you see how I write the equation out as A, B, C, and D? Always fill them in. So my C is 0, so no. Quickest answer ever. Okay? Then we're going to go over. This one, horizontal phase shift. Yes, it's a 3, so yes. Don't say anything other than yes or no. What about this one? Is there a C value? Yes. So is there a phase shift? Yes. If there's a C value, yes. If there's not, no. That is it. And what about number 4? Yes. Yes. There's a C value. A, B, C, D. Okay. Now there's this thing called the period, which is how long it takes to rotate, correct? If it was a circle, it rotates the full circle. The pendulum, it's from max to max, correct? That's the period, how long it takes to repeat itself. So, does period start with a B? I know this is the weirdest question ever, but does period start with the letter B? No, that would be called the period. It doesn't exist. I fakely call it the period because why not? Okay? So, when you guys look, the period is 2 pi over b, correct? It's the only, you get 2 formulas on your formula sheet. I told you. One is this, the sine equation. The other one is 2 pi over b is the period, correct? Do you want to know how many people tell me the b value is the period always? And guess what? They will always have the b value as an option for period when they ask for it on a test. It is not. It is the period. The period is not a real thing. So, if they ask you for the period and you give them the period, which is not real, you're going to be wrong. Okay? So, number 2 is the b value. Number 3 is the period. The b value gets the period, but it is not the period because it would start with a b then, and it does not. So what is the b value of this equation? B equals what? 1. Is that the period? B, which starts with a B. Is it the period or is it the period? Please don't write period on your diploma. I made it up. You will look like idiots. Okay? The period is what I make you say, so you guys stop putting it in for the period because it would be stupid. So this is my period. It's mine. I made it up, so it's mine. You're welcome. The period on your formula sheet says it is 2 pi over b. So what is this period going to be? 2 pi over 1. So just 2 pi. Which is like 6.28 blah, 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 right? So this equation rotates a full circle in 6.28 units, basically. Okay? Where did I get what from? So your b value always falls between the sine and x. If there is not a number there, it is a 1. We agree? Okay. So let's go to 2. What is the b of this equation? We have labeled it. It's between the sine and the x. What is the b? 2. So that is the period. So if I ask for b, poof, 2, right? If I ask for period and you give me 2, how's that going to go? Not well. It's going to be wrong, actually. So greatest thing ever is if, because they picked that as a common error, putting the b in for the period, it kicks out half your answers. It's the greatest thing ever. You got a 50-50 shot at that point, right? So if they ask for the period, they will often put the b value as the actual answer. That's not the period, right? That's the period. Go cross those answers off and be like, boom, shakalaka, I'm down to 50-50, right? Call it a win that they do that. Don't fall for it. Okay, so the b is 2. The period is 2 pi divided by b. And people are like, where are you getting that? From the formula sheet. It's a crazy thing. 2 pi over b. So we get 2 pi over, what was the b? 2. So how long does it take to repeat itself? Pi, which is 3.14. So the last graph repeated itself in 6.28. 2 pi's, right? 2 pi's. Pi is 3.14. And I times by 2. I get 6.28, blah, 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 right? So the last equation repeated itself in 6.28. This one's repeating itself in 3.14. Which one has a smaller period? This one or the previous one? The previous one repeated itself in 6.28. This one repeats itself in 3.14. Which one repeated itself faster? This one. And the previous one has a bigger period, longer period. It takes longer to repeat itself, correct? Because you can turn these into decimals, just compare decimals, right? That's it. Okay, let's look at this one. So this is my A, this is my B, this is my C, this is my D. So B equals what? 0.25. P equals 2 pi divided by a quarter. Guess what, guys? When you divide by a fraction, that's between 0 and 1, your period gets bigger. When you divide, what do? When you divide by a fraction, you invert and multiply like we do in rationals, correct? So this is the same as going 2 pi times 4 over 1. What's 2 pi times 4? 8 pi. So currently, which one has the largest period out of the three? This one. This one is 8 pi. The first one was 2 pi. The last one was pi. So number 2 had the shortest period, and so far this one has the longest period, correct? Takes longer, 8 pi to do a full rotation. All right, this one. What is the B? What's my B value? What is my B value? 5. The period is 2 pi divided by B. So it's 2 pi divided by 5. Type that into your calculator. I want you to leave it as 2 pi over 5, but I want you to turn it to a decimal just for comparison's sake. Go 2 pi divided by 5. What did you get? 1.25. So what is this period? It's the smallest. The first period was pi, which is 3.14. The second was 2 pi, which was 6.28. The last one was 8 pi, which is more than that. And then this one is 1.2, whatever you just said, 25. That's the smallest. Then 3.14 and 6.28, right? We can turn them to decimals and compare them. Yeah? Yeah. So that's the amount of time it takes to repeat itself. All right. So grab out a piece of paper for the next 10 minutes. I'm giving you 4 equations, and you're going to give me the same information. Then we're moving on to range, max and min, which is and domain. So the following is what I want. A, I want the amplitude. B, I want the B value. C, I want the period. D, yeah, I want if it's a horizontal phase shift. So it's yes or a no. E, I want the median value. F, I want the midline. Remembering that the equations have to be in the form y equals a sine bx plus c plus d. Now this plus signs could be minus signs as well, if your c and your d are negative. All right, number 1. Bless you. Remember to rewrite your equations in A, B, C, D. We're going to go through the amplitude of each of these, which is half the vertical distance. We don't short form. What is the amplitude of this one? It's 5 because it's the absolute value of -5, so it's 5. Yep. Amplitude of this one. What's the amplitude of this one? 1. Remember, we can go plus 0 here, correct? To put our C in there. This one here, we can add a plus 0. And at the back, we can add a 0. This one, we have an A, B, C, D. So remember, if your A and your B are missing, they're 1s. We agree? If your C and D are missing, they're 0s. You can leave yourself a little note about that if that's something you keep forgetting. If your A and B are missing, they're 1s. Your C and D are missing, they're 0s. Like if there's no numbers there. Correct? Okay. Amplitude of 2 is equal to 3. And the amplitude of 4 is the absolute value of -4, which is 4. So that's completely correct. Okay. What is the B value? A, B, C, D. So the B is 3. So what's the period? It's just off our formula sheet, right? 2 pi over 3. Nothing crazy. Okay, what's the B value of this one? A, B, C, D. So my B value equals 1. And the period is 2 pi over 1, which is just 2 pi.
B.
All right. The B value of this one, A, B, C, D. So the B value is 2. The period is 2 pi divided by B, which is 2, so it is pi. A, B, C, D. The B value equals a half. If the B value is between 0 and 1, your period is getting bigger. Yep.
For the period, so like if it's for number 1, it's 2 pi over 3. Do we put that into like?
No, you leave it. Leave it. Unless they say to the nearest tenth, which sometimes they do, then you have to go 2 pi divided by 3, the whole thing, and just give me the tenth from there. Some people want to just go 2 divided by 3 and leave the pi. If they want it as a tenth, the whole thing goes in and you just give me a decimal. Okay? And then the period for this one is 2 pi divided by a half, which is actually, 5 please, 2 pi times 2 over 1, which is 4 pi. Okay, the median value is easy. It's just your D. If it's negative, it's negative. Then the midline is easy if you know the median value, because what's the midline? Y equals the median value, correct? The median value of this one equals 6. The midline is y equals 6. This one, the median value equals 7, and the midline is y equals 7. This one, the median value equals 0, and the midline is y equals 0. Yes? Okay. Yeah. That's a few people who can't get back from washrooms. They get stuck in hallways. It's the craziest thing. It's like the hallway repels them from the room. They don't know how to get back. It's the thing. They should be very afraid, but they're not. They're just stuck in the hallways. It's a crazy thing. All right. It's a mysterious force. Yes. Okay. This is where I need the absolute maximum brain power of today. I know it's the last 15 minutes, but you're going to 15 minutes of like performance. You'll be fine. Yeah. Nice. So it is a force. It's a force against you. And that's the one. Yeah. Painful. There's a legit force. Hi, Jim. You're going for track, right? Are you going for track? No? Okay, I was going to wish you good luck. Well, I'll wish you good luck for whatever you do. I can't remember, so. Okay. Okay, we need serious brain matter. Everyone's brought their brain matter, right? Look deep within sides here. Okay. Brain matter. Okay. So we are going to want a range, which means in order to get a range, we need a maximum and a minimum, because there's an absolute highest all these graphs go to, we agree, and an absolute lowest all these graphs go to, and then they just keep bouncing between it. It's like there's a little ball in between. It's like boom, 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 and it just does that, right? Every y value exists between those y values, but it stays in the minimum, goes to a maximum, and just so your y values fall between that min and that max, correct? So the range of these is really easy if you know what the min and the max are. If you don't, the range is impossible because you can't find those numbers. Okay? Now, let's talk about it. If this is the graph, I told you, it does like a bing, and then a bing, and then a bing, and then, you know what I mean? It just does that over and over and over. We agree? How can we find that max and that min from an equation? Anyone have any idea? Talking about midlines, talking about amplitudes. We're not going to graph it. We're just going to look at it. So if I give you the midline, okay, and I say the midline is D, because the midline is D. It's whatever the D is on the equation. We agree to that point? Everyone's paying attention. I will lose you. I'm not joking. This is where I will lose you. You either get it or you don't. There's no in between on this one. Okay? The midline is the line that cuts the graph in half, correct? It's the very middle between the amplitudes, right? If I counted the amplitude down and I counted the amplitude up like I did yesterday, we landed on the midline, correct? So, if I know the amplitude, then this here, my friends, is the amplitude, correct? So is this. Is that true? Right? Is that the case? So, what if I gave you actual values instead of amplitude, and midline is D? Okay? Well, the amplitude is what on the equation? Just the absolute value of what? On the equation. How do you get the amplitude, guys? You did it like a whole lot of times. The absolute value of A, right? So this is the absolute value of A. This is the absolute value of A. We agree? So let's pretend that our midline is the number 6. So our midline, I just picked blue. Thank you very much. 4. Y equals 6. We're going to pretend that it's y equals 6. It could be any number, right? We just have to get an equation and know what it is. So I'm going to pretend that it's y equals 6. So this value here is 6. We agree? That middle line? Now what if I tell you the amplitude equals 2? Could you tell me what the maximum and minimum of this graph is? Anyone have any idea how we do that? Yeah, Maggie? Yeah. Pardon?
Is it like what the box says in the top right corner, like G plus amplitude?
It's like there's a trick. Guys, it's a girl reads. She's got it. Yeah. So this is the amplitude. If the amplitude is 2, and I do D plus the amplitude, what am I going to get to? The maximum, which is 8. Holy smoker doodles, Batman. Sorry. Yeah, you deserve it too. All right. Now this one is 2 as well. So what are we gonna do now to get to the minimum? So quick crab moment right now. The minimum will be 4. Because if I just take that middle line and I add to it my amplitude, I get to the top, correct? If I take that middle line and I subtract from my amplitude, I get to the bottom. Formulas! Ah. Just sell my heart. Okay, so let's talk about this then. We're just going to talk maxes and mins for now. How do I get the maximum from this one? Well, I'm going to do the D value plus the amplitude. Right? We agree? She's writing a test. She's totally fine. Yeah, we're good. Okay, what was the D? 2. Plus, what's my amplitude? What's my amplitude? I literally just said what's. Someone throw a little prayer out for me because it's getting a little rough. Jesus, help out Mrs. Lepp because she is struggling with her English. I ask this in your name. I'm not even joking. I literally need that. Someone want to throw another one at me? All right. Finally, the temperature has cooled down in this room. I feel a lot better too. English isn't improving, but that's okay. All right. What's the minimum? D minus amplitude. What is the D? 2. Minus, what's my amplitude? 3. And what do I get? Now, what if I mess the 2 up? What if I do amplitude plus D? That amplitude plus D, because you're adding 2 things, will actually still work out. But if I do amplitude minus D, I will get the wrong answer. Do you think it'll be there? Yeah. Common error. So this is how I say, I always pretend like you're speaking German when you're doing this. Like, das ist gut. Like, da, DA, D plus amplitude, D minus amplitude. We're just going to German it up here. Da is good. You know, it's our roots. It's fine. Da. Das is good. Da. No add. Da. Do you know how many of you are not going to listen to this German thing that I'm telling you right now? And you're going to go ad, you're going to go AD, you're going to do it the wrong way. It's going to be wrong, and I'm going to be sad, and I'm going to walk up to you and say, das is not good. That's what I'm going to say, because you add it. That's what's going to happen. So, da, D plus amplitude. Okay, let's go with this one. Maximum is D plus amplitude. What's my D? So I'm going to go 0 plus my amplitude. What's my amplitude? 6. Do not say -6. That is not your amplitude. Okay, and then what's your minimum going to be? My midline, the middle of my graph, subtract my amplitude. And I get -6, which makes sense because remember when your y equals 0, it's the x-axis, and I go up 6, I go down 6. Makes sense. Okay, let's look at this one. What's my maximum? What's my D value? -7 plus my amplitude, because I will da all the time. Da. Da, 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 da. What am I going to add? What's my amplitude? 0.5. So what's my answer? 6.5. Because I'm at -7 and I go up 0.5. Let's think about that. -7 go up 0.5, that's -6.5, right? Then I have -7 and I'm going to go down 0.5. And what am I going to be at? -7.5, which makes sense. -7 down 0.5, up 0.5, right? So what about this one? What's my max? What's my D? 4 plus my amplitude. Start at 4 and I go up a half. So I'm at 4.5. Then I take my midline, which is 4, and I go down the amplitude of a half, and I'm now at 3.5. See what I'm saying? Okay. Minusing a half. 4 minus a half is 3.5. Your amplitude's always positive. Oh, wait. Domain is the best thing ever in sinusoidal graphs. They do this. Ready? They go on forever. This is what I'm not having problems up here. I'm just going on for forever. So what is my domain? X such that X and M are the reals for all of them all. So we're going to do that. Squiggly bracket, which means the set of. All of these have the variable of X for X, so I use X. Remember, if they had like T or D or whatever the heck, I'd have to use that variable. So X such that X is an element of the reals. X such that X is an element of the reals. Did you know that unless it's a word problem, the only trick or the only function that isn't XER is logs? All of the polynomials is XCR, exponentials XCR, sinusoidals XCR. It's only a log for the entire year's course. Now, range is really easy if you know your min and your max. We're going to write this over here to help ourselves out. The range is always sandwiched between the min and the max, correct? The min is the lowest you can go, the max is the highest you can go, every y value in between exists. Make sure you're paying attention. So it's going to be y such that, now you're going to take this y in the middle, and you're going to sandwich it. So y is greater than or equal to something, because you read from the y, and then y is less than or equal to something. Do you see how those signs are the actual same way looking? They're both L's, right? Because you read from the y. Y is open to the y, so y is greater than or equal to some sort of value, and y is less than or equal to some sort of value. They look the exact same, but they mean opposite things because you read from the y. Y is open to, so y is greater than or equal to something. Y is close to, so y is less than or equal to something. What is it greater than or equal to? Your min or your max? It's greater than or equal to the min, and it's less than or equal to the max. YER. So your range is really easy if you know your min and your max. Your range is impossible if you don't know your min and your max. We agree? So we're filling in our range here. Y such that the min is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to the max, right? So that's important that we know that. So here we have our mins and maxes. Our min is -1, our max is 5. So our range is going to be y such that -1 is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to 5. Y is an element of the reals. The only time you don't have equal to signs is when an asymptote is involved, and asymptotes are involved in exponentials and logs, right? Other than that, we're going to have equal to signs. It's only when you have an asymptote that it doesn't count. This range is going to be y such that your minimum, -6, is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to your maximum, which is 6. Y is an element of the reals. This one, y such that your minimum, -7, Crystal, -7.5 is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to your max. Y is an element of the reals. And then this one, y such that your minimum, which is 3.5, is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to 4.5. Y is an element of the reals. We have one last lesson left in sinusoidal, then we move on to probability, our last unit.